We'll call the meeting to order. Owen, you're on.
Good evening and thank you for joining. I would ask that all devices be turned off or silenced. Tonight's meeting is a public meeting held under the Planning Act is being live streamed to the Township YouTube page. Collection of personal information as a result of the public meeting is under the authority of the Planning Act and will be used to assist in making a decision on these matters. Persons speaking at the meeting are requested to give their name and address for recording in the minutes. All names, addresses, opinions, and comments may be collected and may form part of the minutes, which will be available to the public. Additionally, interested members of the public can email the clerk or the Development Services Department if they wish to be notified regarding a particular application. Questions regarding this application should be forwarded to the Development Services Department. Tonight's meeting is to consider public meeting reports. These reports contain a staff recommendation, and the recommendation is typically to approve with conditions, defer the application, or to deny. After the planner's presentation, committee members will be able to ask questions of staff, followed by members of the public. Following the question and answer period, this committee then makes a recommendation of the applications to approve, defer, or deny. Following the committee's decision, notice will be circulated in accordance with the Planning Act. If a specified person or public body would otherwise have the ability to appeal the decision of the committee to the Ontario Land Tribunal, but the specified person or public body does not make an oral submission at the public meeting or make a written submission to the Township of Stone Mills before the application is provisionally approved, the specified person or public body is not entitled to appeal this decision. So I will call this meeting to order at 5:02 p.m.
Thank you, Owen. I welcome everyone here this evening from the audience. If someone has a question they want to ask, raise your hand, identify yourself, and you will be recognized. If I don't pick it up, some of the committee members will. I'll ask for the approval of the agenda. Moved by Bob, seconded by Aaron. Any additions or deletions to the agenda? Anyone? No, let the record show there isn't any. Any declarations or conflict of interest or general nature thereof? Is there any? No. Adoption of the minutes. I'd ask for a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Marilyn, seconded by Aaron. Any errors or omissions? Anyone have any concerns with the minutes? All those in favor? Carried. Minor variance application, MV 2025-0005 Sinclair, unaddressed Murphy Road. Jason?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, first application, as you're aware, on the tonight's agenda, minor variance application for a vacant, unaddressed parcel on Murphy Road, relatively small in shape and triangular in configuration. The applicant, Mr. Sinclair, is here this evening, and I will provide a brief overview with respect to what has been applied for through our office and what the committee has before it this evening with respect to the variances being proposed. The applicant is attempting to seek approval to construct a 145 square meter, approximately, single-family dwelling on the property. Of course, we're located in the rural area, and all the properties in our jurisdiction are serviced via private on-site water and sewage, so conventional septic system and well, also to be accommodated on the subject property. Within the township zoning bylaw, comprehensive zoning bylaw, there are 4 provisions in which the applicant is not able to satisfy through the proposal. The setback distance from an extractive industrial zone, setback from a center line of a road, the front yard setback, and the exterior side yard setback. You can see we have the sketch on the screen, and you can see the building envelope that has been identified, confirming all of the as of right permissions that would have to be satisfied in order to comply with all the yard setbacks. That being said, the extractive industrial zone setback of 150 meters, if it were applied, it would encompass the entirety of the property, so there's no way to seek as of right permissions when you're considering that setback. We have reviewed the application, we've circulated the application to technical agencies, internal and external to the corporation, and all of those comments have been responded to and incorporated within your package this evening. From a planning perspective, we've reviewed the 4 variances that are being requested and in light of the 4 tests of minor variance in accordance with the Planning Act. The staff report details them in greater detail than I will, of course, that specifies how each of those variances complies with each of those tests. The biggest one that the biggest numerical relief that I want to bring to your attention is the extractive industrial zone setback, and that's from the pit located southwest of the subject property that actually we own as a corporation. That pit property has a 150-meter setback as it relates to all properties around it in which are zoned extractive industrial. So it's not from where the operation of the pit is actually occurring, it's from the property that has the zoning attributed to it. So that's why when you consider the neighboring properties, it encompasses far greater of a reach or stretch than what you would think if you measured from the actual extraction area. When measuring from the extraction area to the proposed building envelope, you're nearly 380 meters. And when you consider all other development in the area, there are existing single-family dwellings located closer or in proximity to the licensed pit as compared to what's being proposed through this application. The applicant has hired a professional engineer to complete a land use compatibility review, also included within the package this evening, and the professional engineer's opinion is that this proposal is consistent with the policies. It's appropriate contextually given that pit extractive use and pit located on the adjacent property. I can speak further to the other provisions as requested. I'm not going to go into those in great detail. There are 2 other points I'd like to raise for the committee's awareness. Of course, there were public comment received related to this application. And the biggest comment that, the most important or critical comment from my perspective or from staff's perspective is related to the configuration of the parcel and whether or not it is survey accurate in terms of actually confirming that that is in fact the yards, those are in fact the yards, and that is in fact the lot area that exists on the property. In the later pages of our staff report, figure 6, we've shown a reference plan, 29R 8365, which is of a property on the north side of the Camden-Sheffield Boundary Road, and that property shows this triangular shaped property somewhat different in configuration. However, our GIS mapping at the township, which is supported by the County of Lennox-Addington, as well as the applicant sketch that's on the screen, represents how the parcel is configured and what the applicable setbacks are. Short of having the applicant complete a survey by an Ontario land surveyor to confirm those setbacks in advance of tonight's meeting, we felt that the sketch was adequate as it conforms to what we have shown publicly on our systems. And by doing so, we have, and the applicant has the onus or responsibility of ensuring that his sketch is appropriate. We've incorporated a condition for a recommendation this evening by the committee that includes that an Ontario land surveyor shall confirm that all the applicable zoning performance standards are satisfied prior to obtaining building permit from our chief building official. That gives staff a level of comfort that what's being applied for and recommended to you as a committee is what would actually exist on the ground, and the applicant having to demonstrate that prior to obtaining a building permit. By doing that in reverse order, or having the applicant confirm that before tonight's agenda or meeting, would be something that's bearing additional costs in advance of having a level of comfort that an application may actually garner approval. So we feel that this recommendation in the stage of process is appropriate. There was some additional public commentary. It's incorporated at the back of the report, page 11. And I believe there are a few members of the public here that may have some questions for us this evening. I'm happy to answer any of those from members of the committee and/or the public. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Committee members have any concerns, questions? Would you stand and state your name, please? Come to the microphone.
There's never been any test holes dug there or no septic tank approval, and I don't know.
Sorry, could you just turn that mic on and all you do is push the button?
The silver button. There you go.
Okay,
You're on the air.
okay. There's never been no septic tank approval there, has there?
Not that I'm aware of.
And I don't know whether they just realize that piece of property is solid granite rock, that you can't put a basement in it. When your place was built, they broke the whole ram trying to just chip a little bit of that granite rock. So it's all got to be blasted if they're going to do anything to even get a septic system in there. And we dug a well or had a well drilled on the other side of the hill there, and all we got is 1.5 gallons a minute for water in that rock. And it's all one great big rock.
Well, there are conditions that do have to be met. And water and well is one of them. Septic system, I think that can be, they can do wonders with that anymore, bring in fill and what have you. And that has to be approved by the proper authorities before a building permit can be issued.
Yeah, and also that, as I say, that survey is very important because
Yes.
of the road setbacks. Because on the other side of the road, that road that's there, that you are driving on, was actually taken from the Loug's place. And it was never bought. It still belongs to, like, I've got the same on mine. My deed goes from corner to, and there's no road through it. There's a road allowance that goes over the hill there and goes down in beside me, but it's not township road. It says, I got the thing when the hydro line went through, and that was just a traveled road that the farmers allowed people to go around because when the cars came out, they couldn't go over the hills in the wintertime, or they couldn't, and when they did go over the hills in the summer, they backed up them because the cars weren't powerful enough, And township couldn't plow them because the snow plows are too small. So the neighbors were good enough, the farmers were good enough to let them, you'd drive around the hills, and then this township went out and Sheffield together took those, just kept going around the hills, and but never paid for the land, or never bought the land. It's still on our deeds. So any land on the other side of the road, like this piece of land, actually belongs to Doug's farm. It's been sold.
That would have been in Sheffield, old
That was in
Sheffield
Sheffield.
Township, right?
Yes, it should never been sold. It belonged, and if that woman that bought it apparently paid $10,000 for it. So when you take that from those young people that live in that other house, like in Merle Loux's house, you stole $10,000 from them.
I guess that's going to be a council problem, not ours. Anybody got
There's a big problem there, and they done the same with Mary Real when she had her piece of property. Sheffield done this when Brown Spindle Tree Farm there. They gave they wanted the fire hall back in Tamworth, so they went out and they paid Brown for the blueprints for that fire hall by giving them Mary's chunk of land that was on the other side of the road, because that same way up there, the road goes around it. Like, you've got a mess over there in that area.
Jason, you've heard the conversation.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, and I appreciate your comments, Mr. Lasher. The biggest thing of tonight's decision for the Committee of Adjustment, as the Chair had alluded to, is consideration given to the setbacks that are being requested for relief on. The fact of history and how the lands came to be and the road configuration, et cetera, as the chair had mentioned, is a challenge for council, if you will. But ultimately, it's not something that this committee has jurisdiction over through a decision-making process tonight. The only other thing that I would like to mention is, of course, I touched on it early, is condition 3 that's on the screen, and this is a condition that the applicant ought to be aware of, particularly given what we've heard from you, Mr. Lasher, as it relates to potential survey issues. And I use that word issues vaguely in the sense that if the road is not properly identified as to where the road is, and the setbacks from the road / public / private property isn't located where it is identified on the sketch and on our mapping, when an Ontario land surveyor goes out there to confirm that, the setbacks that were applied for through this committee for relief might not be upheld, and then the applicant would not ultimately garner the approval to make this development happen. Because the committee makes a decision, for example, on a 10-meter front yard setback at tonight's meeting, and if an Ontario land surveyor comes back and confirms to the applicant that it's 9.5 and not 10, then this decision isn't valid in the sense that it would not necessitate a permit. The decision, of course, is still valid, but the building inspector can't say that it was applied for and granted to that 9.5 meters of relief. So the applicant is really bearing that risk, if you will, by making the application and having it to be confirmed at a future date by a professional. So I just mentioned that for awareness for all, not just yourself, not just the committee, but also the applicant. And that's something that our chief building official has to give credence to when he reviews that application in the future.
Okay, anyone have any? Yes, Bob?
I think this committee should defer this project until all the other information has come, so we know exactly what we're talking about.
Anyone else? Yes, Aaron? You got a dead battery.
I agree with Bob's comment. As we can see, it is a constraint lot. We have received feedback from the public, and in the absence of not having an official survey, it does make sense to me that we consider deferring this application until a survey can be produced.
Yes, Marilyn?
I would, sorry.
Go ahead. Have a seat, we'll let her go first.
I would suggest that I would tend to agree with Aaron and with Bob as far as the deferral is concerned. I realize that these folks probably don't want to be too long making up our minds, but at the same time, I don't know that it is our problem, but more the applicant's problem. We're not really addressing, I guess, a forced road situation, which was quite common back in the day. That's council's. And we're addressing the things that have been recommended to us. And after that, then it would be up to the applicants when they are, this is my understanding, when they are looking for a building permit and septic tank approval, et cetera, et cetera. Is that not correct?
Right, Jason? Yep.
I don't want to, through you, Mr. Chair, I don't want to take away from the applicant. I understand you'd like to speak, and the only thing I'll do is answer it. Yes, Member Fenwick, the idea, I can appreciate the member's concerns, most definitely. The idea or the rationale for the inclusion of condition 3 was to ensure that that was something that we would be, as a corporation, would be protected from, having something maybe approved or completed that wasn't 100% accurate as verified by an Ontario land surveyor at a future date. There would be no building activity permitted on site until that's done. So the way the condition's worded is I think it encompasses what the concerns might be, but if the committee chooses to front end that as opposed to not, there's no, from a staff point of view, it's a very rationalized decision.
You want to join us?
All right, so my only question is, survey or not, the setback from the center of the road isn't going to change regardless, right? Because the center of the road's not moving. Whether the survey line, the property line from the surveyor is, say, a meter off. My setback from the center of the road in is still going to remain the same regardless of what the surveyor says, is it not? I could be wrong. I'm just trying to clarify, that's all.
Go ahead, Jason.
Through you, Mr. Chair, no, that's accurate with respect to the center line setback requirement. Your exterior side yard setback and your front lot line setback would be the ones that would differ as opposed to the front, or center line.
So, yep, that makes sense. Now, I know one's a front yard setback, but I have a road for both. So it's still a center line from both roads, right, Murphy and Camden, I believe? I understand I guess it'd be the south side, the road allowance one would be the at-risk property line, but the other two shouldn't change at all regardless, I believe.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, yeah, the southernmost is the unopened, unmaintained road allowance. That'd be the exterior side yard that's going to have that question mark, if you will, as to where that exists. So that'd be the, 10 meters down to 5 meter variance relief. And then your center line setbacks off Camden, Sheffield, and Murphy should be, accurate to what's measured from on site by an Ontario land surveyor. But that being said, just to conclude, all 4 variances ought to be satisfied and confirmed to comply with what might be decided upon tonight, if not deferred, to ensure that this is able to be advanced through building permit.
My last question is, if that southern property line is inaccurate, and I'm applying for a 5 meter variance, if it's inaccurate, do I still have wiggle room to come, like say, I'm requesting 5, but let's say I only end up needing 7? Is that fine? So, I mean, I might have a couple meters to work with there anyways, right? Potentially.
Yeah, just for the committee's awareness and the applicant, yeah, that's accurate in the sense that the approval would allow for worst case scenario 5. If the 10 is the required and you're down to 7 or 6 or 5.1, you're compliant with what the permissions were of this committee to come to 5.
Sure.
That road is not in the center of in the right spot. It's 4 feet from the fence line on the north side of the road. So if your road allowance what now, 60 feet or 60 some feet? So you've got to go from that fence line, because there's a survey stake there, you've got to go onto this piece of property, that 60 feet, and it's in the middle of that the road will start, not 4 feet from that fence line.
Well, I was sitting here thinking that the center line of that road has got to be established before
That's
anything
right.
else can be done.
Yeah, that's right, because that road is not.
Am I wrong? Jason?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I don't think anybody's wrong in the room, to be honest with you. I think
I've been proven wrong.
I think we're generally all talking about the same thing in the sense that there's question mark around the level of confidence that that's correct. And the applicant has a level of confidence that he can ensure that that building envelope's compliant. And staff have a level of confidence that that can be adhered to based on the conditioning that we're going to have an Ontario land surveyor verify it. The question is the committee of adjustment satisfied that they can issue approval today on the condition that the Ontario land surveyor has to do their work previous to or post the committee making their decision, or does the committee of adjustment want that confirmation before the committee makes a decision regarding those setbacks. That's, in my assessment, what we're really discussing. And I don't, from a planning point of view, I don't think we're talking about a fundamental objection to a variance or the actual quantitative relief that's being sought. We're talking about how we get to the end goal of ensuring that it's accurate. So I think that's, from my summary, that's what I'm hearing.
All we're looking for is accuracy. Yes, Aaron? Yours doesn't work.
So when I made my earlier comment, my rationale was, if you couldn't adhere to those setbacks, then by deferring and confirming that information, it would give you the ability to make any tweaks with Jason, to allow for your application to meet that standard. It sounds as if all of the support information we have is supportive that can be done with the information at hand, and it sounds as if you're well aware of what that means moving forward. So I guess what was motivating my comment earlier was, are you aware that you might not meet the standard of the setback if, let's say, one variable, one setback was not going to adhere to what we would approve here tonight? So I appreciate your comments and that additional information, so I have the understanding that you're aware of those elements.
Anyone else? Okay, how do you want to handle this? Approve, defer? I'm listening. Yes, Marilyn, you're the brave one.
I am. I understand the reasoning, and this gentleman is here tonight, and he's aware that this could happen. And that surveyor thing, we're dangling that. If everything changes, we can't do very much about it at our level. If it's discovered that that is a forced road and not a proper road, then of course everything we approved is based on the proper survey and the proper owners of the various properties. And are you okay with that?
Well, I got a couple more questions, I guess.
Sure, go for it.
At one point, this property was severed. Do we know when that happened, how many years ago that was?
Jason?
Through you, Mr. Chair, no, short answer, no.
No.
I suspect it was naturally severed by the construction of roads as
Yeah.
opposed to a consent process. There wasn't there's no reference plan for that property, so there's no survey for that triangle-shaped parcel, so it wasn't created through a Planning Act process like we would do in 2025.
Yeah. So we have no idea if that's accurate or not with that road allowance I'm mostly concerned about the South Road allowance now at this point. I'm not too worried about Murphy Road and Camden Road, but if that's inaccurate, then I could be in some trouble. And I guess what's the odds of that being inaccurate? I seen that the property's staked. There's property marks or property pins out there marking the line, I assume of the edge of the property or the beginning of the road allowance, one of the two or both at the same time. So yeah, I was hoping you guys would say it was just done 12 years ago or something like that, but obviously not. Do we know when the road got deferred over and when the corner happened? We have no idea?
That road was like that since we were there for 40, we've been there for 42 years.
And it was like that then?
Like that. And when we moved out there, Merle Lux was still in the house and owned that place. And my children were over there playing. And Merle came over and told them they were on his property and they were on this piece of property. So when Merle Lux was there, when we first moved out there, that was still belonged to Lux place.
So how did somebody sell it then if it was his land?
It got 2 deeds.
2 deeds.
And I understand my place I've got the same thing, the road, where the road goes through my place, and I've got a triangle on the other side of the road, and I understand that the township now has said that it was a surplus property. I still cut wood off it and everything. It's not no surplus property. My deed says that I go from corner to corner to corner. There's no road through it. It's got the road allowance, you know, where the real road allowance is, but not that road. I've got my deed right here.
Yeah, I should see the other guy's deed, it sounds like.
Well, they don't get a deed now because it's all that stupid up in Toronto that you only get a computer thing.
Yeah. Well, that's what
So,
we're going
and that's where the
after.
problem is. That's where the problem is. My deed is the real deed that we used to get in Napanee at the registry office. And now these new deeds, they just make up anything. Like, we have a friend, Shirley Detler, I might think you all know him. He lost a piece of property back in his woods back there. And he was having a fit because somebody had done a deed on, or deal on him and sold his property with money. He was back to my place, you know, really, you know.
Okay, people, committee members, how are we gonna handle this? We're looking for a motion. Yes, Marilyn?
After hearing everything, I think it's becoming more and more confusing, and so my thought is that we defer it.
I have a motion by Marilyn to defer. Do we have a seconder? Seconded by Bob. Any further discussion? No?
Oh, what's the wording? Because of the indecision to do with the road being represented on here properly, it makes it hard to decide whether those measurements are going to be correct.
So through you, Mr. Chair, I'm just trying to get a understanding of the rationale for deferral in the sense that it has to be direct in that it provides direction to an applicant as to what he or she needs to do before they can come back to the committee at a subsequent meeting to hear the application again. A suggestion in my would be that the applicant prepare a survey accurate sketch completed by an Ontario land surveyor that details the building envelope and proposed on-site development for the consideration of committee at an upcoming meeting.
I agree. I think that's a very well-worded motion.
Okay. Hopefully somebody wrote that down.
Yes. Did,
Okay, any further discussion? We have a motion to defer. All those in favor? Carried. You have your homework cut out for you.
yeah.
See you in a couple months.
Well, we certainly hope so. We hope it's all cleared up by then.
So we gotta write that and then get them before we all.
Okay? All right, the severance application,
Sorry.
CON 2025-0012, parcel A, Johnson,
You can
County
stay
Road 6.
afterward.
Jason, you're on.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Firstly, I believe Ms. Johnson's joining us tonight virtually. She's on Zoom, who our clerk, Ms. Teeple's helping us navigate through this process. The application for consent is applicable to 4240 County Road 6 in Moscow. The proposal seeks to subdivide the northernmost portion of this land holding with sever a 1 hectare, approximately 98 meter road frontage parcel from the large land holding for the purposes of establishing a new residential building lot in the village of Moscow. The subject property is currently developed with a residential use as well as agricultural uses. All of the existing on-site development is proposed to be maintained and entirely located on the retained parcel. The majority of the retained parcel and the existing development of that retained parcel fronts County Road 6. There's no proposed changes to that, even though the existing parcel does maintain frontage on Moscow Road. So subdividing the northern piece fronting Moscow doesn't have a adverse or a fundamental effect, negative effect on how the functionality of that retained parcel would function. The retained parcel is quite large in size, with nearly 100 acres, with nearly 1,000 meters of road frontage. And we have one aspect of this application that I would like to bring your attention to is the fact that the application was originally submitted to create residential building lots together with an easement at the southernmost portion of those residential building lots, which I understand includes an existing drainage channel, ditch, that provides an outlet of stormwater flows from northeast of the property through the property down to the west. And it's included within this report, as well as the information for the committee. We have received communication from our Public Works Department, who have no desire to garner an easement over that private property for the purposes of maintaining the ditch. That is entirely on private property, and it's not something that the township sees its responsibility to extend to. That is a private property matter. There are several conditions incorporated. There are 12 that are being recommended to the committee, should the committee decide to approve these applications. Three, I'll bring your attention to. One is drill a well, because we understand these would be future residential lots. 2, a hydrogeological assessment on the wells, given the fact that there's density in the area, single-family dwellings predominantly, and our official plan policies point to that as being a requirement. And the other is condition 12, which is a rezoning application. Given the fact that the property right now is part of a bigger, larger rural property, and these lots are in the northernmost portion of the village, it would be appropriate to have them in a hamlet residential zone, not a rural zone, given the fact that they're smaller and designed or purposely designed for residential use, as opposed to anything more than that. Lastly, we did receive public comment through the processing of this application when it was circulated publicly from Mr. McQuay, who had expressed his opinion about the erection of a fence on the north. I'm not sure if it was the north or the south side of that ditch, but essentially to protect and preserve the ditch from any livestock that might be roaming on the retained parcel, based on essentially preventing cattle from getting onto those severed lots. We, at staff's level, can appreciate the desire to protect that use, residential use, from an agricultural use, but it's not something that's typical of a committee or staff to impose through a lot creation process to erect a fence. There's things like, if we were to condition that, maybe the property owner not want a chain link fence versus a board fence versus a certain height or a certain location. So it's in our assessment and opinion that the future property owners make that determination at time of purchase and construction, as opposed to us at the committee level when our decision is to be considering and looking at the appropriateness of the lot creation. Lastly, there were building comments that came in late. I should have mentioned this on the previous application as well, that have been put on each of your desks for consideration because they're not included in the package online or the agenda. So I'm happy to answer any questions. I recognize this is related to parcel A and there's a parcel B that's very similar, but I'm happy to answer any questions that might be applicable from a committee and or any member of the public that's here tonight.
Thank you, Jason. Committee members have any concerns or questions? No? Yes, Linda, join us at the table, please. You can bring your better half with you if you like.
It's okay. I got enough mouth. Our concern with this is that this drain ditch goes across our property into a pond and then on across the existing farm. And it's blocked up right now because the cattle have been in there for several years now. We dug out the ditch and the pond a few years ago now, but the cattle have been allowed to go in and punch it full. So now the water doesn't get away on our ditch and sits there most of the summer, creating mosquitoes and such. We would like some kind of guarantee that it's going to be kept clean so that we're drained. Once we cleaned it, it stayed drained staying clean and drained for quite a number of years. But just with the cattle being there, they're wading in the muck now up to their bellies. We think, first of all, that it should be blocked off so the cattle can't get to it in the first place. Like a fence be built on the south side to keep the cattle out of it. That's our primary concern, is the water doesn't get away.
Bob?
Not in the lots, but on the south side. The ditch does.
It's my understanding that the ditch property has been assumed by the township.
From the picture here, we've got the, this is the square. I assume this is the pond here, and then the lot line goes there, and I assume this was the ditch. Can I do this? I assume that this is the pond, and this is the ditch going across the next property. And this is us up here. Is that right?
I'll come up this screen too.
Go.
Sorry, I forgot to write that.
This is the pond. Yes.
Yeah.
This is the ditch.
Yes.
And this would be the property line between the farm retained and the severed lots. So this ditch and pond would be located on severed parcel.
And if they decide not to build a fence? What happens?
They decide to not build a fence,
Yeah.
then they might have cows in the backyard.
So
Is it not Monica's responsibility to build that fence?
We can,
Is it not Monica's responsibility to keep her cattle in on her own side? Because I'm understanding if you're not gonna have cattle on that property, it's the responsibility of the farmer to keep it there. And if not, you go to small claims court and
that, through you, Mr. Chair, that's right. It's the responsibility of the farmer to ensure that their livestock are not trespassing, if you will, on private property. And if Ms. Johnson was to sever these two lots, convey them to someone else, it would be her responsibility to ensure that the cattle aren't trespassing onto the ditch,
lots,
in
the
essence,
ditch.
because that would be privately owned in another name as opposed to Ms. Johnson, yes.
okay. And then how does the ditch get cleaned out and maintained?
Through you, Mr. Chair, that's going to be a responsibility of the new private property owners that would purchase the private property that includes the ditch on it. That's not a responsibility of the municipality in the sense that that's a ditch that's privately owned.
Someone told us that this pond area and that path was going to be part of the township's responsibility. owner of that property is Township.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I don't understand the second part, but I'll answer the first part. The applicant, Ms. Johnson, through this process, made the request that an easement be established on that ditch and pond in favor of the township to assume maintenance and clearing of that natural waterway, of that water feature in future. Through the review of the application, our Public Works Department, that's responsible for overseeing that aspect of the municipal operations, disagreed, essentially, and said, we're not assuming future maintenance of that ditch, and we won't be cleaning it out to ensure that it's functioning on private property.
So what if we built a blockade?
The watershed there is several farmers. They can waive responsibility, I guess.
It comes from a long ways up the road. From other farms and from the drainage in the village. So I think somebody should have responsibility for it other than the two people that are buying, or two lots. Because maybe they don't care. And so the water gets backed up at our place.
I can appreciate the concern. The only thing I can say is there's ditches on private properties all over the municipality that extend beyond property lines. Very common in the sense that a ditch is impacted upstream by some other private property owner. And the municipality doesn't have the equipment, resources, nor manpower to go and manage all ditches and water courses across the entirety of the township to ensure that they flow when they exceed and extend from one property to the other.
So I guess we could fill in the culvert there and back all the water up behind us.
You can't back water up,
That's a,
Right.
no.
yeah,
But
that,
it is being backed up right now because it can't get away from the pond.
Well, then, wherever the ditch, in my estimation, wherever the ditch is on private land, it's up to that property owner to clean the ditch so it drains. Because if my memory serves me correct, quite a number of years ago in that village, there was a lot that had water problems and a ditch. And the property owner at the time wanted the municipality to clear the ditch. And because it was on private property, no. So that's why Jeff has made the statement that he has made about a right-of-way or cleaning the ditch out is not the municipality's responsibility.
Okay, so the easement,
The previous ditch, my dad owned land there.
over here,
And the ditch was declared an award ditch. And everybody benefiting from that ditch would cost 2 or 3 farms was assessed such and such a percentage of the cost of digging the ditch. That's what happened at that time.
many years ago.
Well,
I don't see
What's-
how you can abscond from responsibility to let the water go the way it wants to go.
What's the point of the easement?
it's not to be being considered, in my estimation. Am I right, Jason?
yeah, that's accurate, Mr. Chair. The easement was a request of the applicant through this process to ensure that we as the municipality could have the legal right to get onto that property to provide maintenance for the ditch. And because our Public Works Department doesn't plan to incorporate ditch work on private property in the future, we have a recommendation to this committee that there's not an easement established on that property in favor of us, that it's just a part of the property and it's created as a separate lot, not an easement.
So nobody owns it, basically.
Yeah, that's inaccurate in the sense it'll be owned. It'll be owned as part of
Those two parcels.
those severed lots.
Yes, Merrill?
This might not have any bearing on it, but you're saying the pond is there, and do you have a ditch
Yeah.
on your property?
Our ditch drains into the
which-
pond
Yeah.
where it stagnates now.
Which you maintain yourselves?
Our ditch, yes.
Yes. And then there are these two lots, and there's further property on down the line that, okay.
There's another separate
So
plot.
to my way of thinking, it would be very difficult for the township to maintain something like that because
what
they
I'm
would have to, they would find it very difficult because they would tend to have to go on private property for each parcel that has that ditch. So it's, because it's always on private property. It's not like it's one on the road, which the municipality already owns. So it's a bit of a hassle, and there's nothing at this point in the game that has been actually planned for that way, or, you know, you're saying way back in the past, someone did
Oh,
that,
that was
but,
on another ditch.
yeah, okay, so that's not been happening here. So this is not a precedent being set because it's been running
So-
through there?
We could say the water that's coming from the village and crossing our property, we don't want it crossing anymore. Take it down the road and put it in the ditch alongside the road.
Well,
It's a pretty simple matter, of just having the ditch dug and the fence put on the farm side. In case closed for us people, but
well, I have a poor understanding of this now. So I'll let Jason or Bob address that, and
Well,
maybe there'll be some clarification.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair, of course. I understand the concern, I really do. But I think the limitations of this committee don't extend to what your recommendation or your advisement is. We could include a condition that says that a fence ought to be erected on the retained parcel to prevent any livestock from getting to the ditch. That's a possibility, but as we already kind of discussed, that's a requirement regardless through other legislation. You're not allowed to have livestock at large. We have bylaws in place that prohibit that, and they are subject to, I believe, administrative monetary penalties even. There's a whole other aspect of approval for that. But with respect, so that's the one aspect of your desire, as I understand it. The other aspect is cleaning out the ditch. I don't want to sound blunt, but
Go
that's
ahead.
not what the municipality does around the whole of the municipality. We don't clean out ditches on private property everywhere. So
so who is responsible for the drainage
The private property owner.
In the village, part of this drainage ditch?
Well, if it's on municipal-owned property on Huffman or Moscow Road in the village, it would be the municipality. If it's on County Road 6 in the municipality, it'd be the county of Lennox and Addington. And if it's on private property in the village, it'd be the individual private property owners. And it'd be a civil matter if there's an issue with respect to the drainage and you're backing up water, stormwater or stormwater management onto an adjacent property owner. That's a civil matter between private property owners.
But right now, the pond isn't draining. So our ditch is staying with water in it all summer. We can't maintain it if it's full of water. Otherwise, we cut it with lawnmower
We've already dug the ditch once.
ourselves.
Monica Johnson, the owner, and I made a deal. I said, I need soil for my building lot, and you need a ditch drained. So I paid for the ditch to be drained, and it was great till they turned the cattle in there. And then that's gradually ruined the ditch.
Yes, Merle?
I just want to say, Monica is here with us.
Yes. Yep. We're on good terms with Monica. we're happy she's selling the lots, that's not the issue. The issue is just, we like it cleaned out, when it isn't at our expense, because we can't go over there now, and somebody else is gonna own the lots to do it, nor should we have to.
Probably what's gonna happen, seeing there's no soil there, the people that are gonna build there, because it sounds like on grade slab, they'll need all the fill that they can get. They'll probably clean the ditch out. I mean, you're got.
Woulda, shoulda, coulda, might not happen.
Well,
That's not a rocky field, though.
And has to go a fence across the back end, as long as there's cattle there, keep the cattle off the private.
because once those lots are severed, she'll have to put, once they're sold, she has to put the fence where to keep her cows away.
And through you, Mr. Chair, if the committee feels so inclined, we can strike a new condition that incorporates that and tie it to prior to final lot creation for the erection of a fence across that. We're allowed to instill conditions on a retained parcel.
Can we include the ditch once we cleaned and then the fence put up? Or are we reaching?
Yeah, I would,
Sorry, I couldn't hear what you said.
I don't think we can talk about ditch.
I thought I'd throw it out there anyhow.
In my estimation, we're going too far on that one. I'm in favor of the fence.
Yeah.
I know that can be, that's allowable, but
Yeah, I think that's
they
step one.
can't back water, water has to flow.
Right.
So the property owner at the time has to maintain that ditch. Because if the municipality was going to maintain that ditch, I got some I'd like them for to clean out too.
Well, this is kind of a special circumstance, but, we worry about getting the ditch dug if you can ensure us that the fence is gonna get built, on the right side of the ditch. If you can do that, that's a big step in the right direction.
Ms. Johnson, you want us to have a turn at this? You're on mute. You're on mute.
There you go. Yeah, I'm muted. Okay,
There
so
we are.
there's one thing. The pond has water in it all the time. Even in a dry year, it always has water. Now, the ditch doesn't end with me. It goes further along, and none of those people are any lower. So if my ditch is lower, the water sits in the ditch because it can't go anywhere, because you can't just make one section lower. Do you know what I'm saying?
The year
Nobody
that
else
we
has
dug
made
the
their ditch deeper.
The pond was.
Just a minute, let her, it's her turn.
Sorry.
So that's one thing. The other thing is, I don't mind the fence. The reason that I don't have a fence is because the cows graze in there and it's a fairly big piece of land. They keep the weeds and everything down. It's short grass. If I don't do that, it'll all be weeds and whatever. Once the fence is up and the cows don't get in there, who's going to cut all the weeds? I'd have to go and do that.
Okay, Laverne, it's your turn.
I forgot what I was gonna say. Oh, we dug the ditch, I don't know, 20 years ago
No,
maybe.
it's not that far.
The pond was dry when we dug the ditch, so it's not always full of water.
It's only started to be full of water after the cattle punched holes in the ditch.
Well, you know.
Then the pond filled up again. So it can't get away now.
Okay, committee members, how do you want to handle this? Yes, Bob?
Are we going to include the fence?
Pardon me?
Are we going to include the fence be built? As a condition of severance?
That's your decision.
Yes,
You want the fence included?
yes.
Can I say another thing?
Sure, go ahead.
So it's true. He did dig the ditch out. But what they did was they took all the topsoil, because I approached him, I think 2 years ago. I was going to make a grass ditch. You know how like you get like a little valley with grass and everything? Because right now, And then, but I couldn't do that because there's no topsoil, which they all took away for the house. Now it's all pure clay. So you can't do anything with it. It doesn't grow any grass. It doesn't do anything.
Okay, we have a motion. Yes, Marilyn?
I'm thinking that if we're putting this fence there, does it have to be put there right now, or it's a condition? It's a condition right now with the approval of the severances?
I would say it's, go ahead, Jason.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've got some wording for Member Surgeon if he so chooses to. That the owner shall erect a fence on the southernmost lot line of the proposed severed parcel prior to the issuance of a certificate of official. And that would allow for, if a decision's made tonight, there's 2 years to complete the process, and it would have to be erected before we issue final approval, which could be at any point during that 2-year process.
You okay with that, Bob?
The best we can do.
Do we have a seconder? Marilyn? Any further discussion? No? Okay, so everyone, you're approving this severance with the attached conditions plus the one that, of the addition of the fence. Everyone clear? No easement.
No easement.
All those in favor? Carried. Okay, on to parcel B, 0013. Jason, I think it's pretty much the same as the first one, right?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Do you want to do it all again?
Committee members, we don't need a rerun.
No,
Okay, need a motion.
same conditions as before.
Same conditions as before, with the added? Second by Marilyn. Any further discussion?
So the condition is the property line will be fenced? Is that right?
Yes. She has 2 years to do it.
This has to be on the right side of the ditch.
Well, it's got to be on the property line.
South side, yeah.
Wherever that property line is, where the fence has to be.
Yep,
Yeah, okay.
okay. All right, any further discussion? All those in favor? Carried.
I think we're okay, because we'll get the ditch dug some way, and then it'll be maintained, because it'll be in the backyard to our neighbors.
Talk nice to the new neighbors when they move in. Tell them where all that free soil is.
I'm sorry.
Soil in other houses.
Ms. Johnson, did you want to say anything more? No? Yes, no, maybe? It's not? Okay. Anybody have any other business?
Thank you for your consideration.
Take care. Have a good evening.
Can I ask a question?
Sure, go ahead.
What does the hydrological study, what is that supposed to find?
Are you sitting down? Go ahead, Jason.
Is that those caves under the ground?
Through you, Mr. Chair, no, Ms. Johnson, it's not. It's a study that, when you drill new wells on these severed lots to support the construction of a new home, there's a test, a hydrogeological assessment test that's completed on those wells to ensure that there's going to be no adverse impact of your new wells on neighboring properties and neighboring
Okay.
wells.
Okay,
all.
you don't have to tell me anymore. That's good. Okay. Thank you. That's good. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Have a good day, Monica.
Okay, and no one has any other business? I ask for a motion to adjourn. Moved by Bob, second by Aaron. All those in favor?